Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome back to our second, for this group, our second recording of our faith and gaming type of ideas in our special. So, we are going to be getting into how games have affected our faith this time. And I'm not sure if you're finding this on the Interplanar Crossroads or on the other channel that's being worked on right now as we're filming. So I'm not saying what it is right now because I'm working on it for y'all. But we are hopefully going to have that up for you. I am Adam L. Spain with the Interplanar Crossroads and that other channel. And you can get with us through that if you need to and everything. And then I'm with Kristen and Dan from Avenue Studios.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, we are all on Rumble and YouTube, and the Interplanar Crossroads also has a BitChute as a backup if you watch videos over there. So that's what I kind of have as far as introductions. Because this is a special, we're not doing a lot of shout-outs or anything. We're just going right into the subject. So you viewers can grab your preferred beverage, gather with us around the hearth, and join us as we discuss how games have influenced our faith. Skål.
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 My drugs. It would be drugs, right? Because then the plural is an S, I think.
I don't remember for friends, actually.
Oh,
Man. Someday we'll be polyglots, right? Someday.
yeah. Someday we'll be speaking other languages, but today is not that day. All right. So we're going to get into this. You guys want me to start off, or did you guys have something you wanted to go with first?
I always like bouncing off your starting ideas, I think.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So, this is just something personal for me, but I'd have to say the thing that has most influenced me from as far as games and how it's affected my faith is the running of the game, is being the GM, is realizing that all of these rules depend on me to do it right, and then God has all this greater creation that he's running and using, and we're characters in this. We are people in this thing that is being ran so perfectly to the minute detail, not just on, like we talked about in the previous chat, not just on the idea that he's making this one world work or this one town or this one place. He's making this planet work. He's making that galaxy work. He's making that universe work. The entire universe. And he's the one that didn't just come across this universe. He didn't just find a universe and say, this is mine now.
Mm-hmm.
He made the literal laws of physics. The literal gravity is part of his laws for this universe. They're part of the rules for this universe. It's a mind-boggling thing to think about. When you are just playing a game and running for your friends, and that's it. And you have a hard time keeping that all in your head.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. So that's probably been the biggest thing that's from experiences in games that has affected my faith. I better appreciate the mindset of God. You can actually better understand God by playing the game. And that's pretty cool, I think.
It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Orthodoxy by Chesterton, when he talks about why the joy in a child being able to say again and again and again, and we as older people are just too tired to be that joyful. That his aspect is, in a way, God is the youngest, and he every morning says to the sun again. And that's the only reason everything exists, is because he never gets bored of doing all of that. Oh man, it makes me tear up right away. But yeah, that's awesome.
Well, what do you guys think your most influential things that have affected your faith from games?
Yeah. Most influential. I mean, one of the aspects of it's similar to what you're saying. It's been too that the gap, I think I mentioned in the last video, that gap between me and God, because even in like the worlds I make, the players influence and help me build it. I literally can't build a whole world. And it, for me, it's a joy. It's a joy to be with other people and do that. But it just shows, even with like 6 or 7 people, we're not even scratching the surface of what God can do. And I think for me, the other aspect is the storytelling. Because it becomes a kind of that circle of faith influencing gaming, then influencing faith. I've really felt connected to God's heart, that aspect of God's heart, in this love of telling a story, and just seeing how much weightier it is, the story he's telling, because ours are just pretend characters. It's just all in our, like you like to say, mind palaces. We're just sharing this mind palace, but in a way, we're in God's mind palace. And it's
He is the dreamer that will eventually wake up.
So I think that's a big aspect of how it's shown how infinitesimally small, I think that's the right word, how tiny I am. And yet he still cares so much. Because I care for all these characters, even the silly NPCs I make up. I end up caring for them, and they're nothing compared to a human soul. So again, that gap and just the appreciation of it is really, I think that's the most influential.
Yeah, and I've never run a game, so I'm like, so I just don't yet. I don't have that perspective yet. I am totally intimidated by the thought or the possibility at all.
Well, what do you think as a player perspective?
Yeah, I was thinking that, like, I feel like it, in playing the games, my own real life warfare, the warfare that's against you, those things will come out in your characters and with the people you're playing with. And so it's a check, and it's also like a little God saying, this is something you need to work on, because if it's showing up in your games and in real life, there's something there that needs to be reexamined, and God's putting something on your heart that you need to work on it. So
and that's the thing, TTRPGs are such a social game that comes up a lot. And I think you had mentioned in the last chat a little bit too of how, maybe it was the last chat, I don't remember, but the aspect that most of the characters we play are parts of us or something.
I mentioned that when I was talking with Jacob and Zachariah.
That's right. I overheard you guys. Because I'm always listening. But
that's
was exactly it. Oh, sorry.
So that's one of the points I actually have. It goes into what you're saying, that roleplay allows these specific type of games, the role-playing games, allow concepts and questions to be explored in a safe and a safe way to address them and look at them, because I'm of the opinion that characters, when we make up characters, they are usually one of 3 things. They are either a heightened aspect about yourself that you're purposely doing, a aspect about yourself you don't like, or an aspect that is opposite to something in yourself. In which case, you still better understand yourself. So not only do you better understand yourself when you play through these characters, but like you said, the things that are kind of in there that you might not realize are there until you start role-playing certain situations. You're like, oh wait, that was me coming out. That was a me thing. Like when you're playing Aurora or something and you're talking and you're passionate about something, and then you're like, wait, that was both of us. That was me and Aurora saying that. So yeah.
I find it, because I'm weird, an awesome moment when that happens. Even when I get hit. It's a really cool thing to be aware of. Because I had one character where I was processing some things from a game and like trying to role play it, because it's just how I verbally process. Role playing through him talking to his deity. And as it started, I was realizing this actually, it's not the character talking to his deity. This is something I'm speaking to God about. And it just struck at something I was wrestling with and dealing with, and it was really deep. And I was like, actually came to tears about it. I was like, I was just trying to roleplay a character. But it was really cool that just allowing myself to be in that character for a second, almost like put some barriers down, because you're not thinking about yourself. You're kind of stepping back in a way, allowing you to kind of self-examine without any kind of filter or block, because you're not thinking it's yourself. You're thinking it's your character. But I'm definitely in the opinion too that everything's born out of us in some way when we create something. So there's gonna be some kind of reflection or shadow in there. I like it.
So there's that. And it works around with it. Yeah. And then not only does it help us better understand ourselves, but it can also help us better appreciate the fact that there's one God. Because when we're going through the games, like we just did your deity game.
Yes, quite literally.
And we just filmed that. As of filming this, we just filmed that, where the deities were having a council and we were playing those deities, discussing what was happening in the universe. Trying to get those individuals to agree. It doesn't work real well. Everybody has to want the universe to continue to exist for that to be a thing. And you're just not going to be able to get multiple cosmic deities to exist and not destroy universes. The power of a true God cannot interface with the mortal realm and the mortal realm continue to exist if there's more than one God. Because there has to be one God. Otherwise, everything falls apart because there's no order. Because there is order. You start to appreciate the order. When you start to run a game, you realize, wow, the universe has order in it. It's not chaos, like they say. It's not, the chaos theory doesn't work. It's not chaos. Everything has rules and laws that are dictating what's happening and moving in the universe. And then you get to feel that in the game when you're playing, when you're acting as the GM or you're playing as the characters. You know there's real rules. You know that there's things that you're going to bump up against, and it's okay because it's part of the game. And there can't be more than one GM. Now there's co-GMs and stuff like that, but every time, and Jacob brought this up, every time, even when there's co-GMs, there's one person who's getting to make the final decision. And that's how it has to be. There's actually only one real GM. So.
I've been thinking about that kind of stuff a lot, because I'm like, if you are reading the Bible and if you are following it, these are the instructions about how to live a more it works out better for you if you follow these instructions, and it's just played out like, and I've seen multiple times of people building their house on the sand and it crashes down, building out on the sand, it crashes down, and you just see the continual cycle. And I've grown up as a Christian in a Christian home. This is like what I've known, and this is what I followed my entire life. And I've seen people who started off that way and then went off other ways, and it just crashes and burns and crashes and burns. And I'm like, this is like reaffirms that, like, God said, this is the way you should live. Life is not going to be perfect. It also says that in the Bible. It says there will be suffering. But this is a way to live well, I guess. And if you follow the instructions, things do tend to work out better. So I'm just like,
Yep.
You have the guidebook. Read it, and
Well,
and don't just assume you know what it says. You actually need to read it. And I'm speaking to some of you out there that are like, I grew up in the church. I know what it says. No, you need to actually sit down and read the Bible, and then make a judgment on it.
Yeah. And that goes back to we were talking with
Mama, don't take no lip.
Yeah. We were talking with Zachariah and Jacob, and it was kind of brought up, if there's one deity, then he's probably going to want to interact with his creation, because we want to interact with our creations. So, again, it goes back to better understanding God's mindset.
Right.
If he's going to want to do that, he's probably going to send some kind of message to these people. Okay, it's going to have to be a unified message. It can't be one that is sporadic all over the place. So he's going to pick somebody. He's going to pick someone and use them, and people like them or attached with them. So he picks Israel. And then as he picks that, we see, well, then there's going to be certain people when he needs to deliver a message. He's going to use those people, and they're going to end up writing things down. And it's almost like he would have to make a core rule book that's about, and it's got about 66 books in it. And so the Bible's the core rule book for the game of life.
I love that.
It is.
So she's saying read the rules.
Read the rules.
Know the rules that apply to you in your games.
It's in a small way taking that aspect in kind of a humorous way of the game. It's the GM's always problem of like, do you know how your spell works? I don't want to have to keep looking it up. And that's because we're fallen imperfect, gods of our games sort of idea. It's like God's constantly right there. I think I'm just getting that now of that idea. God's constantly right there, and he can tell you how the spell works. Like
Right. But then he also wants you to know how that character ability works. So sometimes so as GMs, you're like, okay, or even as players having to deal with other players bogging down the flow of a game.
Right.
It's like, okay, this is the 8th session where you have in a row where you've had to ask how this works. Read your ability. Know what you can do. And it goes back to what you were saying. A lot of people assume they know.
Right.
And this player assumes they know, but then when the time comes to use it, they don't have it. They don't know. And they didn't realize it until the time came to use it. So read the rule book.
Yeah, that's
and
really
know your abilities.
Man, I'm just thinking now from a gaming perspective, looking at your life in that same vein, if you know those rules well for your character, if you know how your character is built and you understand how the whole rules of the game work, it actually opens up a lot of freedom because you can play with it. It's like, well, I know the language of this, and it's kind of the rules lawyer is the negative joke of that, of like, if you know every jot and tittle, you know where you can stretch things and where, well, it says it this way, that means I can do this. It's kind of a goofy way of mimicking the idea that with these boundaries, we're actually given so much freedom. I keep quoting Chesterton, but when he talks about the Christian life being like, if you put a bunch of kids in a playground on this giant cliff and all the sides of the cliff, you'll come and find the kids are huddled in the corner because they don't want to get near the edge and fall off. Once you put that fence, then they now have this complete freedom and they can just go crazy in this playground because they've been given the safe boundaries that protect them from death. And so that's kind of, it kind of just, I don't know, I see it that way.
Don't restrict me. I ain't a part of your system.
Yeah. No, literally.
Whee! Off the cliff.
We all voted and we were playing in this system.
Yeah.
That's really, thanks guys. I didn't think about that until now. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. And I actually got more notes from Jacob and Zachariah when we were talking than I had before. One of which was, we're playing through the game of life. We are the PCs, we are PCs in this game. We're characters in this game. And it's when we realize that from that point of view, it gives us a lot of empathy, a lot of willingness to work with others. And it helps us when we realize that everybody else is playing the game too. We're all playing the game together. We're playing together in this game. It's a tough game. It's a very harsh game, and it's a game that's important. But it can be enjoyed. It can be made better by following the rules, by doing what he wants and doing it right. And that can be very meaningful for people, especially when they're struggling. It goes back to that idea of when people are working through certain things. This is a safe place to work through those things. Some people will play a chaotic character when they're feeling particularly chaotic in their life, or when their life is feeling particularly chaotic. And that can give them a better handle on it when they start to apply that and start to work through that. And then they're like, you know what? It's right. When there is structure to the universe. There is, because I see structure in my game, which means there's some structure somewhere. And if there's some structure somewhere, there's some structure for me to hold on to. Where is that? And then they can reach out. And sometimes that's opening doors for people when they can open up to their friends in a, again, safe way to be able to handle those things. So,
yeah, that's really cool. I don't know if it quite falls into gaming influence my faith, but just the fact that we've been in this world has just opened up the opportunity to interact and talk with people who would normally not interact with me at all. Now, sometimes they don't know my faith. It's fine. You know, we can...
They find out eventually.
Yeah, they do. But it really does open up the opportunity, because it does create a safe space in a way. And I know there's so much cultural weight on that word, but quite literally, you're sitting down, like we talked about, and playing these characters. You can, even as parents, we've been starting to look at, I want my kids to get into these games because I think it's ways I can talk with them, or they might be more willing to talk with me through their characters. And it's just been quite a blessing to have that opportunity to interact with all these different people, and we can all sit down. We have this shared goal of playing a game, and you can actually poke around a little bit in a way that allows you to, you know, push back a little on some innate assumption you might have, and you might not even know you're doing it on purpose. Which is, again, another reason I always pray before I play games. I'm like, God uses right, even if it's all us who, we're so blessed with this group of Christians that all get together and play. I can pray, God, use this silly game, however you want to. You've put it on my heart to do this, and let's see what happens. Let's roll the dice, if you will.
And kind of combining that with the point earlier about learning about yourself, it's a good moment, especially with younger kids, to understand not only that, but you can understand God's mindset on mercy and on grace and on things along that line, because the GM is the arbiter of the rules. They are the God of the universe that you're playing in. So you're playing in this universe, and you have justice, judgment, and equity that is supposed to be doled out by the rules. You have justice, which is what the rules are. Judgment, which is the making of the decision whether you broke the rule or not. But equity is misunderstood in a lot of ways modernly, because they mess around with the meaning. The Bible talks about equity. It's about having a equitable punishment for breaking the rule or for doing something, or an equitable reward for doing something and doing it well. So justice, judgment, and equity working together. And then you can also better understand grace, where the GM says, spend your legend point.
Yes.
Your moment of grace, your miracle, your mercy. You've got a legend point, or I'm rewarding you with a legend. Right. We're using Open Legend as our example,
the rule of cool a little bit. Is the
God
grace.
plays with the rule of cool.
I mean, I guess Jesus really is just the rule of cool. It's like, you know what? You guys can't do this.
Just Jesus sunglasses.
Yep. I'll take care
I'm
of it.
not putting that in post. You just have to use your mind.
Yep. That's awesome, though. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And the education part is, like with the kids, they're in a safe place and you're like, Torin, this goblin's begging for its life. What do you do? I tell him to surrender. And you say, he surrenders. And then after a while, you can kind of say, when the game's over, you know what you did there, Torin?
Mm.
You showed mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, a child, through a safe way, has learned mercy.
Mm. And on top of that, too, going back to Jesus using stories. Stories are some of the best ways, probably the best way to express lessons like that.
Mm-hmm. Especially
Because,
the kids.
Yeah, because they're connected to that in that moment. I've caught that, where you get that, you see it in your kid's eyes. It's like, oh, I understand this. But it's because it was through a story that they're able to grasp it at some deeper level. Were you thinking something?
No, I like that. I like that a lot. And just being able to, I think of this one mom that told me that whenever she would ask her son what's wrong, he wouldn't say it, but she would bring out this stuffed animal and, let's talk to the stuffed animal. And then all of a sudden all the stuff would come out, so, but that these games can be a place where you can really connect with your kids and find out what's happening in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
plus that there's so many people out there that don't have a lot of time with their kids. I can't wrap my mind around it because we homeschool, we work from home, we're literally together all the time. But that is just not the reality of most people. Most people their kids are in school, they're at work, they see them for dinner, and then that's it. Like, they go do schoolwork and all that kind of stuff and craziness. But if you can have a family game, this can be your time to intentionally get to know your kids and
present.
to really be present. Yeah.
Right.
Like, people play board games and stuff like that, and that's great too. But if you really want to get into their inner psyche, I mean, this is the way to do it, to understand how they think, how they process. They learn math, they learn other things. Like, it's a great way to connect with your kids and to help them learn and grow and help them feel loved, and heard, even if they don't know that they're speaking how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
You can affirm their character, which will feel like you're affirming them. So
Yeah.
I'm feeling frustrated in this moment. I can't remember, but there's been so many, because I think the two things in my life that have affected my faith are parenting and gaming, to be honest.
And putting them together.
Yep.
There you go.
But I'm trying to think. There's been so many moments where we're talking about something in the game, and I just go, it must be how God feels sometimes.
Yes.
In the pure frustration of something, or, oh, you silly. Same with parenting, too. Anytime my kids do something and you just look at it,
why?
They're having a temper tantrum, like, man, God, how many times have I done this to you? But I can't think. I apologize. I can't think of any in the moment.
If you
but
were
I
just
know.
patient.
Yeah.
Just wait.
Trust me. That might be one of the things
Yeah.
I've in games a lot where I've said that as a GM, especially like in the Bomb Squad one, we have this overarching story we're trying to complete as a group too. And I've had talks with Austin before, and I'm like, you'll know when the moment comes.
Yeah.
And it's, trust me. And God totally says it, right? We're only supposed to see like barely what's in front of us. And he's like, trust me.
Well, that's a good lesson to learn and to be able to learn. Just trust me.
Yep. I'm smiling because I don't. Right? I know I'm trying. Oh my gosh. But how much more, like what you're saying, how much more God's in control of it. And we can see that. Because it's like, if I can, silly old me can say that to my friend, and he knows he can trust me. And then we have these moments in the story where it all comes together. How much more for God in your life?
Well, from the lesson earlier, as of recording, from the lesson, our Y lesson at the home church, I brought up the idea. Romans 8 talks about how all things work together for the good of those that love you and are the called according to your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
We
Even
love
the
him.
terrible things.
Even the terrible
And
things.
you're like, why did I have to go through that? And then you're like, it grew my faith, I almost died and I was like, ready. I was like, okay, this is it. I'm ready, and it just builds your faith. I don't know.
Well, it goes back to what he says in Ecclesiastes 3, a time and a purpose for everything, and he's made everything beautiful in his time.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Okay. Another thing that was brought up in the Zechariah and Jacob chat was the idea
Good boys.
Yeah, they're pretty good boys. Made some notes. Was the idea of when we were talking about the why and things along that line, it gets you stronger, right? You get more beautiful, more refined over time. The fire refines you, the fiery trials of our faith. That means you level up. You level up. Do you know what happens to people that level up? They have to face something stronger.
Yep.
Yes.
So they can level up.
So
So-
true.
There you go. Go
That's
ahead. I
really
dare
good.
you say, Lord, increase my faith. See what happens. See what
Mhm.
happens.
Oh,
He's going to
my
give you some
word.
stuff to increase your faith. That's what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good.
I remember growing up and being like, Lord, I don't have a testimony. I've just grown up in the church, and then
I'll handle that for you, sister,
yep.
he said.
Oh yeah. And you're like, okay, nah, I got it.
Trust me.
Yeah. I want a cool backstory, Lord.
Yeah.
Yes,
Trust
right.
me.
You want your parents to stick around. You don't want a PC backstory.
Yeah. You don't need a PC backstory to be cool, all right?
Yeah.
I actually do want to make a character who's just a normal person who decided to go adventuring. Like, he's got a family, he's got a
love that.
farm.
Yes.
Maybe he's just like a cleric or a paladin. He's like,
Mhm.
nope, I just wanted to go on an adventure.
The Tailhays are kind of like that,
I love it.
Like it's
They're a little like that, but
they're
they're
an odd
gnomes.
family, but they are a family.
Yeah.
there's a mom, there's a dad.
There's an ogre brother.
Yeah.
I didn't say older brother.
Right.
I said ogre brother.
Yes.
So,
But
but the idea that you
yeah.
level up and then you face stronger challenges, and then you
Oh my
level up,
gosh.
face stronger challenges.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny from behind the screen aspect on that too, of thinking, okay, now my players are leveled up. I got to make sure the encounter's balanced where it challenges them the right amount. There's the
Mhm.
threat of death. There's the threat of loss, but they're still
Mm.
going to come through, hopefully, in the end.
Just like God says, through every temptation, there will be a way to escape.
Ah, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm. And to have people in your life that you can look to and be like, that's my goal,
Mm.
and seeing those people who have been through those things and have worked through those things, and that you see them, I don't know, they're the high powerful level 9s or whatever,
Yes.
and you're like,
Ugh.
okay.
It's like in The Great Divorce when that one woman comes through with all the people and the animals following
The animals,
her.
yeah.
And Lewis is like, well, who is that person? And the other character's like, well, you'd never have known her on Earth, but she's ultimate level. to paraphrase Lewis. But yeah, that's exactly.
She's
it.
max level. She's hit level cap.
Yeah.
Well, we each have our own little level cap we're going to hit before we go. See, so
Oh, that's
There you
good.
go.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
I'm shooting for level 120, maybe more. We'll
Oh,
see.
Yeah, he's
That's
going
the
all
goal.
the way.
Oh, and why not shoot for the long shot?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
That's
See, I told
awesome.
myself if I can preach until I hit 118, I will preach for 100 years. That'll be something cool.
That's
That
pretty cool.
is
That would be
pretty
pretty
cool.
cool.
Worthy goal.
I've been a cleric for 100 years.
Oh man.
That would be actually pretty cool to be able to say, I've been a cleric for 100 years.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That would
In a
be
game,
awesome.
Playing a cleric.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
And they'd be like, oh yeah, he's old. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, I've actually been one for 100 years. I got some whack spells, yo. Check my spell slots.
Yes.
Tell you what.
Oh man, that's really cool. I did have a family once for a character, and then the GM killed them all. So, again, GMs are imperfect humans. I was like, all of them. Okay.
Well, that leads into the final point that I have.
Oh, perfect.
Of how faith can influence your game and game can influence your faith. Both, really. Death. And the concept of it. And the idea that it's not really the end. That is eternity set in the hearts of man, as the Bible puts it. That we know there's more. We know that this life goes on. That's why in almost every game you play, there's going to be some kind of way to attain immortality, way to get to the other side, some eternal reward for those that are righteous, some eternal punishment or refining for those who are evil. It's a deep-seated thing in us because humans need it. They need it because eternity has been set in our hearts. So that's a better understanding that I've gotten as I've gone through playing games and such.
That's interesting. It does make it more real, because I definitely have those times where it's just you don't really think about it. You get lost in the grind and you're just day to day and thinking about all your actions do have eternal effect, eternal consequence. The people around you, those who follow Christ in the end, those who receive his gifts, you're gonna potentially see them for eternity. I mean, there's a lot of places to go. We can try and avoid each other as long as possible.
We'll be perfected.
Yeah. Perfected. Yeah, I like that better. Perfected. I love Lewis says it in Great Divorce. In love, literally speaking.
Not some emotion, but
right.
Would be in agape.
Yeah, just in that very presence. Can't even imagine it right now. The other thing on the aspect of death too, I just realized was, and it's in our one show, our holiday game that we did, was not that I necessarily needed it, but it was a great time to process through my grandfather passing away too. It was just another moment. I wasn't like really suffering in it, but it struck me out of nowhere since it was a baby wizard that brought it about. So.
Oh yes. Cheeks the baby wizard.
Cheeks the boy. Yeah.
He's a naked baby wizard.
Yep.
Because babies don't need no clothes.
Nope.
So he's a naked, but he had his hat on.
He did. Yep. But it ended up just the way it became a story of, it's one of those ones where the funny character becomes the most beloved and everyone's like so sad that he has to die. But he was passing on to the next, and when Ryan's character is passing on the hat to Katie's character, the dwarf, who had said they had this like almost father-son sort of relationship. It just, all I could see was like my grandpa's gloves, and I'll never fit in them. So that was another thing where, as a Christian too, to get to kind of grapple with death and that it's not over, because Cheeks the boy goes on and he looks back and we see him as a young man. It's just a crazy intense emotional moment for me that I just appreciate so much. Like we've been saying, it's an opportunity to go into those things carefully, and especially with a group of people that you can trust. And for me, it was family and friends. That was just pretty awesome. I can't even put words to it, but to be able to be a part of that and not know it was coming either, but because of my faith, the way I craft my stories, my faith influences it. So craft the story this way. Of course, my brother is in the same place, and so we were on the same page, and next thing we know, we're emulating the idea of our grandfather in a game. Is just an awesome privilege to be a part of. So, got me tearing up again, guys.
It's not hard.
It's not.
But
not to take away from how wonderful it is that they did that, but it's not that hard. I got the feels.
Yeah. Tender hearts.
Yes.
Well, that was the last point I had written down. So, you guys got final thoughts? Anything from Austin to bring up?
Oh,
Stuff like
thank
that?
you. Actually, yeah, I should check that. I love you, Austin. Let's see. Chat 2. We'll just... okay. The big one... this is kind of like my final thoughts, so these are words from Austin on that. The big one is the practice of telling stories. Our history in the world and universe is an amazing one, and I truly believe that the ability to tell that story has been enhanced through playing RPG games, so meaning his own story in real life. And then building a community. Developing lifelong relationships is a goal for all Christians, and gaming has given me the opportunity to cultivate those forever friends more than ever. It provides opportunities to pray and care for each other just through proximity and constant interaction. And I can't help but make my character sheets in my mind for the heroes and villains in the Bible.
That's fair.
That's great. That's good, though. The building community. I think we've kind of hinted at that underneath it, but that, yeah.
And I especially liked the one, as a preacher, I especially can like the first one you mentioned from him, and attest to the idea that being a GM has made me better at conveying the ideas and concepts within Scripture. Because if you have to explain this rule or that rule to someone, or that person explains it to you and now you understand it better, communication, you're practicing communication, and that constant practice of communication makes you a better communicator. And by becoming a better communicator, you can better communicate for him what he wants people to hear. You can expand the way you speak with people to be better at it, to be good at it, and refine and further refine through the different trials and tribulations of your faith.
That's what we've been talking about that recently, how communication is really a muscle. You just got to practice, and it does get stronger and better. And what a fun way to, I don't know, in my opinion, what a fun way to practice.
Yeah, have fun while you learn, right?
Right.
We tell that to kids all the time, but we don't do it as adults.
Yeah, it's true.
I remember it being so intimidating though when you first start and you're playing a character and you feel all this pressure and everything, and now it can be like, oh, we're playing tonight. Okay, I got a character, and you can just have that right off the bat. But definitely it does help with being able to try to take what's up here and spit it out here, which I'm personally working on. So I'm like, I feel like I have a lot up here and it's just not good at actually coming out.
Well, I was telling him just yesterday, that she's better at it than she thinks she is. So there you go.
Thank you.
You got a scoff that I usually get. Oh, okay. He's
what can I say? I'm a good communicator.
Ooh, yes.
To God be the
Legend
glory.
Amen. Oh, double legend voice. All right, one Jesus point too.
One Jesus point. Are we going to start awarding Jesus points now?
That may be a running joke I have at church. If anyone does, I'm like, oh, so you're going to both services today? Double Jesus points.
There you go. All right.
Totally biblical.
Totally.
That's somewhere in there, right? Okie dokie. All right. Did you have your own final thought, or were you going to hold Austin's as your final thought?
No, I think that's good. I mean, I would just echo his building community thing. I love that aspect. It gives that opportunity. So I think we've kind of covered that pretty well. It's fun to play games. It really is.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah. Well, like that, it's fun to play games. You have this short time on Earth. to do it here, I guess, so it's like I think you should try it.
Mm-hmm. TTRPG especially, like we've been saying, giving that social aspect. It's always fascinated me that it's a social game that a lot of not so social people love to play.
It's so true.
And I think it's because of kind of the safe space sort of ideas that they're in a character. I've been fascinated by that, and I love that because I tend to be a more social creature. So I like to play the social game. It makes sense to me. We all sit down and banter and have fun and craft ideas together.
And I naturally get stressed out and have to do it perfectly. And how do we do it perfectly? And
I just assume I'm going to mess up, so it's like, whatever.
There is the idea that it kind of helps you let go of
Yep.
trying to be too perfect
Mhm.
and just wing it.
Just wing it. And that's a muscle, too. Speaking as GMs, you definitely learn to wing it as you go. Because you never know. Never know what people are going to come up with.
But the players never know that you don't know.
Right.
Unless you tell them. So, there you go.
That's beautiful.
All right. I guess that's everything. That's our second chat of this. We hope you've enjoyed. We hope you've gotten something from this. Not just had fun with it, but gotten something from it.
Read your Bible.
Every day. Off more than that if you need to.
Yeah, for real.
I need to every day. Oh.
All right. Well, as always, have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
Bye.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.
That's fun.
Damn.
Thank
done.
you. Hopefully they're enjoyable for you to listen to again later.
It's such a fun topic, though.
Yep. Well, that's the fun thing about these. See, I don't have to do a whole lot of editing. I get that, and then I get to see what people think about it and say about it.
I know. I wonder what it's. I maybe I should say, but I wonder what it's like for a group of people who are not Christians. How do their games play, and are they? Do they work together? Do they not? Do they have fun? Are all their sin, warfare, and everything just clashing together? And
Well,
I don't know.
That's why I mean, having played with a bunch of all different kinds of people at this point now, too, they all can do it, but you lack that. That's why there's all the stories of parties falling apart, and, groups of tabletop falling apart, because you don't have that. Our group is so blessed in being like, if everything's really going bad, we can step back and be like, all right, let's pray together, let's talk this through. They just lack tools in their toolbox, so potentially it could fall apart.
Well, if you have no concept, but you don't think about grace, you don't think about these kind of things, you're self-serving, for even in your game. I can't imagine that it is fun. I don't know.
The bad
Some
guy
part.
concept.
yeah, and it does point to the idea that there are things that people carry in them, moral things. I call it the moral DNA of a soul. And Lewis, this is another one of those things that you see him talk about in Mere Christianity. The idea that there is a core idea of right and wrong. And everybody has it. Now, whether they obey it or not is another thing.
Yeah.
Whether they obey that conscience or not is another thing. But everybody's got one. Everybody's got one. So that's how they're able to do it. But when you're a Christian, when you really are practicing your faith, putting it into everything you do, you gain the ability to really enter into other people's headspace, really appreciate where they're coming from, and value where they're coming from. so that it's not something you just throw away, or that off comment that you might have made, you're like, no. Or that fighting over the loot, being a loot ninja or something like that, just doesn't work in a group that already has Christian values backing it. Now there's the funny parts where if everybody's on board with the idea of there's the rogue again, he's stealing stuff from what's his face. And in narrative games, it's a lot easier to say, all right, you're not going to be successful at this because they're watching for you. Let's see how funny it is. And then they roll. Type of thing. So
Yep.
You're not going to be successful. Let's see how unsuccessful you are.
That's really good. I gotta remember that one. Just gonna lay it out here right now.
Well, I mean, you would have to, if you're traveling in a, first off, they wouldn't be traveling with you.
Right. At some
So-
point.
If you're stealing from them and they suspect it, they'll drop you. They'll
Yeah.
leave you. They'll tie you up and leave you. I mean, that's literally happened in the past before.
Yep.
There's like, we're not going to kill you, but you're not coming with us,
Yeah.
type of thing.
I think we underestimate. Well, I don't think we do specifically, and I don't mean that in a prideful way, but I think it's underestimated the effect of our culture being
Having a
built,
Judeo-Christian
having
base.
a Judeo-Christian base. I
Mhm.
think we're coming to the ends of hanging off those coattails.
Well, we're
But-
And then why is everything so wrong? Why is everything so terrible?
well, stop screwing it up with your atheism.
What do you think?
Put God back in stuff, man.
Oh, but they were slave
Read your Bible.
owners.
read the Bible.
Read your Bible.
Cooper.
Here's the span of history. Here's America. And America got rid of slavery because they were Christian. No, but it's so true. No, because I don't want to listen to those founding fathers because they were slave owners. Like that's it. It's like,
Well, people don't bother to look at the fact that Jefferson in the original draft of the Declaration of Independence